Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. Nobody is perfect. You live and then you learn. Unless your growth gets stunted because you're surrounded by yes men who never call you out and make excuses for your behavior at every turn. In the last video, I did this really sneaky thing where I talked about, well, what I was trying to do was shine a light on the hypocrisy of this win for Johnny Depp, because it seems like people think that will make it easy for men to come forward as abuse victims, but the truth is that it won't. And the sneaky thing that I did was mention Axl Rose, because he's someone who was he's the best of both worlds. He combines the stuff that Amber gets judged on as a victim. If you assume that she's a victim, the things that she's getting judged on, and then it combines it with the stuff that Johnny Depp gets judged on, as a powerful man who could get away with anything. So I wanted to combine those two things, because Axl Rose is someone who is an abuse victim, who was a victim, who is possibly a victim of intimate partner violence from a woman, and who is also allegedly perhaps a perpetrator of abuse. So I thought it would be a good way to combine those ideas and see what people say. And anytime people try to talk about it in the comments, they never follow through with it. They never explain is there a difference between Axl Rose and what? Because I just wanted to see if people could see if there was a difference with these things. And I was tired of people saying that I was sexist, and I thought if I bring up a male victim of domestic abuse, he's not a perfect victim, obviously, and if you believe that Johnny Depp is a victim of domestic abuse, you must admit that he's not a perfect victim either. And I felt like there's a lot of similarities between Axl Rose and Johnny Depp in terms of destruction type stuff. They both kind of do the same sort of stuff, cause a lot of damage for no reason. So I thought, and they have that arrest history and sort of violence towards people, men maybe. So I thought it would be a good way to combine those things and say, well, was Axl Rose a believable victim of domestic abuse when he came forward? Because he came forward and accused his partner at the time as being a perpetrator of intimate partner violence. Basically, he said his story was that she assaulted him during a Christmas party, and that she had hit him, punched him, and kicked him, and he sued her for assault and battery, I think. And that was my issue with Johnny Depp from the beginning, because he sued Amber for defamation of character. And people come out as saying Amber is clearly the abuser. And if that were the case, why would Johnny Depp not sue her for assault? He could easily do that. And I was pointing out, that was an option. If he did that as he made the case that, I would have believed him. However, doing it for defamation of character just doesn't make any sense. And there's the comments on that video, it really does show all the hypocrisy and all the ways that people are going around it so that it doesn't make sense. And ultimately, it's not going to make things good for abuse victims in the future, male or female. This win, it doesn't work for anyone with the standards that you find. Saying that, how dare you accuse someone of doing something that you are doing yourself. And so when Axl Rose sued, he got countersued, and they both sort of they ended up settling out of court, because I think they both had a point. And I don't know if he was actually if he was violent. Based on what they've said, it's hard to tell. The mutual abuse thing could come in, but also they're saying that maybe he has like a controlling personality and psychological and emotional abuse. Like, he had 2 exes who accused him of this kind of thing. So I think they were saying it was like psychological and emotional abuse, and then they were both physically abusive to each other. So it's hard to tell. But that's something where if Johnny Depp had sued her for something that wasn't defamation of character, it would have been a completely different story to me. But the fact that this is what he did is, I mean, I don't know. And when it comes to like settling out of court, like, I think that it's different. Like, it makes it so different to me compared to Johnny Depp, because he had a lot of his exes signed non-disclosure agreements. But I think with Axel's exes, they're able to speak about those things if they want to, but they just don't want to, and that's why you don't hear the exact details of their relationship. You don't need to know all that kind of stuff. None of this information about Johnny and Amber needed to come out. It was only at Johnny's insistence that this stuff came out. If Amber had her choice, she would not say any of this stuff publicly. If it was up to her, she would not have accused him of any of these things. But because he forced her against her will to come forward and say the truth of what happened, this is why you have these allegations. Like, the sexual abuse, assault allegations, they never came out until this trial. Like, before that, it wasn't really something that people knew about, and that's why people thought, oh, she's making it up as she goes along. And that's not the truth. Like, she had this stuff written out in the UK court case. It was just confidential, and he made it public for no reason. It was very unnecessary to make this stuff public, and I think it was a bad idea for him to do this ultimately. Like, I don't think it's gonna work out too good for him. But anyway, like, with like, to compare it to Axl Rose and his exes, I don't think you need to say, oh, this one's a villain, this one's a good person, because you just don't know what went down. We don't know the truth of that situation. Like, you don't need to say, like, someone's innocent, someone's not innocent. Like, with abuse, it's always a complicated thing, and you'll never know what it is. But the important thing is, like, they're both separated, and everyone's fine now. Like, to me, that's all that matters, I think. I just wanted to settle this thing before I move on. How they're saying that Johnny Depp beat her with these chunky rings on his hand. If you look at the pictures of his hand in these pictures, that he's not wearing any heavy rings. It's not really gonna leave those marks that she's saying. Like, the time when Camille presented that picture where she said that her nose got damaged, and then she said, I put ice on it, and then I put on makeup, and that's why I look fine. She didn't, I mean, her nose does seem like it doesn't seem like she's lying necessarily. And he's not wearing those chunky rings here. So you don't have to assume, like, he's beating her with rings and that it should make all these marks on her face, because it seems like he probably takes it off when he's at home, because and at that time he was not wearing big rings for some reason. So I think it might just be a new thing, and maybe he wore it more in court to be like, oh, I never have no rings on me. And when Amber was asked about it, she was trying to think back, and she was like, I don't exactly remember. He usually does wear rings, heavy rings, but sometimes he doesn't, and on those occasions he was not wearing heavy rings. So the case, I mean, it's settled for me personally. The discussion in the comments was, it really is so stupid. We were talking about, like, how can Amber get evidence for this type of, how can anyone in the future have evidence of sexual assault when it happens? Like, how do you get real evidence of it? Because apparently her giving the story was not good enough. So, how can you get evidence for that kind of thing? And then specifically speaking about the bottle assault that she said, the fact that she didn't get medical attention afterwards, isn't that like something, that means that it definitely didn't happen? And I was saying that there's tons of people that get violently raped in the same way and they don't seek medical attention. So, I mean, what can you do? Like, how do you disprove that kind of thing? And basically, this whole thing with Amber's allegations, like, none of it can be disproven. It's just gonna sit there because you can't disprove anything that she said. And and then they were saying, when I gave that point of like her not going to the hospital and why she would not need medical attention, and saying, hospitals did not always exist, doctors did not always exist, and people figure a way out. People give birth, not in a hospital. People used to do abortions not in a hospital, and it was very unsafe. But there's all kinds of things that you can figure stuff out, and you don't have to go to the hospital. And she was saying that she wanted to protect him, and that's why she didn't go. She does have psychiatrist notes of like that correlate with these events, like the same kind of dates. Like she'll bring something up to her psychiatrist, but that was not allowed in evidence. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's important evidence for when she does the appeal, to say they took this stuff out, and it proves my point. So yeah, but yeah, you can't. And then they were asking me for to give them data of the people who were violently raped but did not seek medical attention. And I asked them, is self-report data any good to you? Or is it like they're all just making up stories and it's all lies and they're just lying for no reason? And then they said, yeah, it doesn't count because it's all self-report data. It doesn't count. It's not evidence. So I was like, there's no way to give you data or evidence that will be good enough for you. And that's why I'm saying, like, this whole win for Johnny Depp is going to make it so both men and women don't get believed when they give their stories. And Axl Rose was someone who came forward as a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse. He didn't have any evidence, but yeah, he said that he came forward with that kind of thing to people, and he gave his story of what happened. And I just believe people. I just tend to believe people when they give you these stories. Like, I don't see what the harm is when people give you these stories. I don't feel the need to say that he's a dirty liar for saying this stuff. Like, I don't see why he would lie about these kinds of things. Same with Amber. Amber did not say these things by her choice. Johnny Depp forced her to say these things against her will. Like, she did not want to come forward. She didn't want to damage his reputation or anything like that. So she had no reason to lie. I think when she says this stuff, it's because it probably happened, and that's why she's saying it. Like, because she could give people a more toned down and more comfortable story if she wanted to, and then that way everything would have been fine. But she decided, I think the only reason she did this is because this is the truth of what happened. And what's an annoying thing to me is, like, the thing in Australia is that she, when she was there, Johnny Depp was blacked out. He doesn't seem to remember a lot of what happened. Camille tried to say, oh, you were the real abuser. He tried to lock himself away time after time. But we all know he came out of whatever he was locked into, and he used his severed finger blood to write on everything. So he wasn't locked up for that long. And he definitely could have done what she's alleging he did. And I don't like this alternative belief that people have where, what do you think happened? If it's not what Amber's saying, what do you think happened? Like, she's just sitting in the corner, painting her nails and knitting, and then she randomly decides to self-harm with the knitting needle. What are you saying? Because it's not like, oh, nothing happened, or this, like, you have to believe that something happened, because she said that what happened in Australia made her fear for her life. So I mean, you must believe that something happened, and like, to say that she's just being over dramatic when you know that this trip ended with this man writing all these menacing notes in his own blood, and just like, and that he was on all these drugs, doing cocaine. Like, I wouldn't want to trade places with Amber if someone's like took a bunch of ecstasy, cocaine, and alcohol, and he's in blacked out state, and he's that out of his mind that he's writing with his own blood. Like, and he said he had a nervous breakdown and he doesn't remember what he did. It doesn't seem like he did anything good. And I've listened to those tapes where Amber's saying to him, "Oh, good for you that you don't remember. Unfortunately for me, I remember in vivid detail. I've been trying to block it out, but it's really hard to block out what you did to me." So it really does lend credibility to what she's saying. Something definitely did happen in Australia, and if that's the story she's giving, I don't see why you wouldn't believe it. And someone in the comments was like writing to me, like when I brought up Axl Rose, they kept like listing off these things that he had done, saying that he settled out of court and that he was silencing the women he was with. And that's not true. He didn't silence anyone. Like, that's not his style. I don't think he was trying to silence anyone. He just settled because they both had a point. And then that's why, like, and the other thing they said is that he raped someone, and again, that's not true either. That's a mischaracterization of what happened, because the charge was statutory rape. It's a confusing thing. And the age difference, which I will circle back to in a second, this girl was 15, he was 23, and he hid away for like a few weeks to avoid this thing. And even though that girl ran away naked, the story is that she took some sort of drug and she freaked out and she ran out in the streets naked. And people had seen that, and it was connected to Axl Rose. But for some reason, and people knew that like the intercourse happened, but the case was dropped due to a lack of hard evidence. Like, what hard evidence is missing for people? Like, what do you need? What would be needed for hard evidence? That's the thing that I don't understand. So yeah, like, I just don't think that anyone's gonna ever be believed. Like, I don't know what exact thing do you need evidence of in order to, like, it just makes no sense moving forward. It will make no sense for anyone. What I didn't like about this person who was like listing off Axl Rose kind of scandalous things is that they didn't follow through and tell you what was wrong with it. Like, that's what's annoying to me, is like, because people list these things and like, oh, shouldn't you be outraged? Shouldn't you be shocked by it? Like, you know, this person, she punched Johnny Depp. Like, Amber punched Johnny Depp. Shouldn't you be so angry? Shouldn't you be shaking your fist? And it's such a bad thing that she did that. I'm like, no. But so anyway, this statutory rape thing. Do you know who else has done that? Look, 17 Winona Ryder and Johnny Depp when he was like 26. So, I mean, he's done the same thing too. But maybe people will be like, okay, well, 17 is not so bad. Some people will say that. But you know, it goes further than that, because his daughter, when she was 15, was in a relationship with someone who was 23, which is the exact same ages of Axl Rose with that girl in the other thing. So not only, like, you could say, oh, it was 17 with Winona Ryder, she was 17. It's a different time. People had like a relaxed attitude. But then now he condoned it for his child. He condoned that behavior for his child. Let me read you the exact comment of this guy. Domestic abuse case that never went to court as Axl paid her to be silent, kind of like what Prince Andrew did! ! So you just ignoring rape, actual rape that he was found guilty of. Yeah, well, like I said, that he was not found guilty of it due to the lack of hard evidence. Now, in this with this whole thing with his daughter, and it's such an unfortunate thing for his daughter. Like, this is why I don't like when Johnny Depp says that he's doing all this for his kid's sake and that he's come forward to make things easier for his children's life, because none of this information would have come out had he just like kept quiet, because this was gonna make things. It's not like just revealing things about himself; he's revealing things about his children. Because I thought they did a pretty good job in like making them not be so scandalous to begin with, but now there's all this information that came out about Lily Rose. That is, I don't think that she's okay with the stuff that came out about her, because well, first of all, there's this thing where she was apparently, when she was 15, she was living with this guy who was 23, and that's, again, this is statutory rape that Johnny Depp, not only did he know about it, he covered up for the guy. He lied to the police when they asked him about it. He lied to the police. And there's people who are like, oh, maybe she's French and the age of consent is different when you're in France. It wasn't in France, it was the LAPD. She was in the US, first of all, and the age of consent in France is not 15. So it was just, it was stupid arguments. And this is like the mental gymnastics that people will do to approve everything that Johnny Depp does. This is the reason why he's not going to grow as a person, is that people keep making excuses for him and letting him get away with everything. And the fact that he got up on the stand and said that there was no truth to him being a bad father, like how can he say something like that, given that he knew that these things were going to come out because it was in the UK trial, but it was just not public knowledge to everyone else, because I think they were trying to protect Lily Rose, but he went out of his way to make this a public trial, the televised trial, and therefore this information about her came out. And also the fact that he introduced his daughter to weed when she was like 13 years old. That was also something that came out, and it was in the news. Like, people wrote articles about it, like, is he a bad father? And it was an important thing to come out, because he's saying that Amber's a mean person, that Amber's a liar. And it's like, is Amber a mean person? Is she a liar? Because it doesn't seem like she's a mean person or a liar based on all this evidence. And he also said, like, that Lily Rose didn't like Amber. But again, like, the evidence showed that they had a pretty good relationship with each other. They couldn't talk about it in this trial, but basically his daughter said that Amber was a good influence on Johnny, and he was kind of away from them a lot when they were growing up because of work and stuff. Like, he splits from people, he kind of wasn't there for them for a lot of things, and Amber encouraged him to be around them more. And Lily Rose texted Johnny saying she's a good influence on you, she's making you like not drink as much and this and that. And he said that Lily Rose hated him when she learnt that he was drinking, and after he won this trial, this one recently, apparently he's drinking again, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, the fact that he got up on the stand and said that there was no truth whatsoever to him being a bad father, that's just such a lie. I don't know. And that's one of those things, that these bold statements that he makes, like, that you can easily prove he's wrong about. Same as saying, like, he has never struck a woman ever. He can't say something like that. If you are blackout drunk and you don't remember, you're not allowed to say you've never struck a woman in your entire life. Like, if you have no idea what you do. And he calls, like, in Australia, he calls like $100,000 worth of property damage, and that trip ended with him like writing on all the walls, and Amber said to him, "You hurt me, you did this to me," and with all that information, he still doesn't remember, but he's going to tell you with full confidence that he's never struck a woman in his entire life. It's just so fishy to me that he would make such a bold statement like that. And I just don't believe, like, how can you say something so definitive? And like, I don't know any mother who could tell you with like full confidence that there's no truth to the statement that they are a bad mother. I don't know any mother who can say something like that and act and think that it makes complete sense. Like, everyone has doubts. Everyone has like certain things that like maybe there's room for improvement. But the fact that Johnny Depp doesn't have that is fishy. It's really fishy to me. And you already have proof that he's lied to the police before. Multiple times he's lied to the police about things and tried to cover up from himself. And like, this whole thing about like acting like Amber's just a drama queen and nothing bad happened to her in Australia is just so stupid. Like, how much do we have to dumb ourselves down to act like Johnny Depp has never done anything bad before? Like, you can't do that for too much longer. Like, the truth has to catch up to you at some point. What really gets my goat is the insult to my intelligence. Like, this is why Axl Rose, there's like this big difference, because with Axl Rose, even though I believe like he perpetrated abuse and this and that, like in ways, like I do believe the women when they give their story, like the little chunks that I'm getting from it, and the idea of Axl Rose, like the fact that he has this history of beating people, like that he's had violent altercations and that he causes property damage, like he has this violent air around him, same way Johnny Depp has this violent air around him, and he breaks things like causing $100,000 worth of damage. Like, that's a big deal. Like, and to say, but to make this jump, like, oh, but he never touched Amber. There's no way he could have touched Amber in doing that. Like, it's just, you'd have to be like really dumbing yourself down to believe that there's no way he could have, that his brain doesn't recognize that there's a woman in his way. And that's how I'm seeing it. It's like, if Amber is in his way and he's doing these things, like if she was trying to speak to him and she got in his way, and in that he physically touched her and did certain things, like when he was out of his mind, basically. And I think there's a big difference. Like, the drugs make such a difference to people's behavior. It really does change people, especially if it's like the amount that he did. Like, it would really change people. And after the fact, you see these apologies that he's giving Amber, saying that he's an insane person when he drinks, calling himself a monster, apologizing to her for it. It just seems like to believe that he didn't do anything, I just don't understand that at all. Like, how could he not have done anything? And he's apologizing to her this much after doing the things that he did. And they do seem like sincere apologies as well. Like, it seems like he knows that he did something wrong. And to try to walk it back and not give you like a story. He's not telling you, oh, I remember that I didn't do anything. He's not saying that. He's saying, I still don't remember, but I couldn't have done it. Like, how can you know that you couldn't have done it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And the big difference with Axl Rose is if he does these things, he always admits to it. He tends to give you he'll tell what the story is. Like, there was this story about a woman like throwing glass bottles at the stage, and then I think he like whacked her with the microphone, and no one feels bad for the woman because she started it. But yeah, basically that's how I'm thinking about it. I just saw a lot of connections between these two people. And when Axel gives his story, he just seems, he doesn't really come across as a liar when he says these things. I don't know, maybe for whatever reasons, he just kind of, he seems like a pretty truthful person. He's not someone who's silencing people. Johnny Depp is the one that keeps making people sign non-disclosure agreements, and that's really fishy to me. And for someone who's got that violent air about him, but also has this nice guy persona, it just seems like the money is the reason why he's able to have that. And like, because Axl Rose didn't have a drug problem, my thing is, like, the drugs aren't the issue. Like, he's that way. With or without the drugs, he would be that way. I don't think the drugs affect someone that much. Like, he's the one who's saying, I'm this way because the drugs and the alcohol. I think the drugs and the alcohol make it worse, but I think he would be that way anyway. I think that's just how it is. Like, for some people, they have that violent air about them, and the drugs don't, and they break things and they smash things, and it's not necessarily the drugs that cause them to behave that way. I think people are just that way, and the drugs are just an excuse. And I prefer like if that's who someone is, then fine. But I think the difference is, like, with Axel and Amber, you see that they went to therapy and they put some effort in to try to sort that stuff out. But Johnny Depp just numbs himself out with drugs, and he doesn't deal with the problem straight ahead. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to work things out. It just doesn't seem like he's putting in the effort to try to be better. Whereas Amber is someone who's been going to therapy, he's been trying to figure this stuff out. And as long as you're trying, then that's all you need to do. Like, and I don't see that she has too many problems. I honestly don't think that she has too many problems now. Like, she doesn't seem to be having as many issues, but he keeps getting into trouble with people. He's in this other lawsuit for assaulting someone. He allegedly punched someone twice in the ribs, and is gonna go to court with them. So it seems like he has a pattern, and him, like, dancing around the issue is making me, like, lose respect for him. Like, there's no way that he has never done. To believe that he's never done anything to anyone is just crazy. Like, how can he say that at this point? Back to his daughter, I just think that him doing this public trial is so bad for him. It's so unnecessary for him. And I don't like the fact that he said that he did it for the sake of his kids. I don't think his kids were into what he, like, doing this public trial on TV. It was not helpful for them, because now there's Amber's new allegations that he could have kept it private. Like, he knew what her allegations were, and it was no one really knew about it. Like, that wasn't something that people really knew until she said it in this trial. People didn't really know what she was gonna say. It was all confidential in the UK trial, and he could have left it that way, and that would have been the better option. But now, those things will just be there. It will just sit there, and there's always going to be that possibility that he did it. We'll never know for sure, but it's always going to be something that's out there, and something that people will question his kids about. So I didn't like the fact that he's saying, now my conscience is clear and no one will question me about this. And it's like, it's not true. Like, you have not disproven that you did that, because he didn't give you an alternative story of what happened. And if only he had given you an alternative story, I could understand why you would side with him. But he didn't. And that's the problem. So now there's this happening. And back in the day, Lily Rose did defend him. She said that he was, like, the sweetest, most loving person I know. He's been nothing but a wonderful father to me, to my little brother and I, and everyone who knows him would say the same. And I think the thing with that is that when Johnny Depp is good with people, he's good. They see him, but he's kind of not there sometimes. Like, he splits from everyone. He needs, like, time away from people. He needs his alone time. And he wasn't around his kids all the time. Like, he had to work. He was not there all the time. So whenever he was there, I'm sure he was this nice, gentle person, and he didn't show those sides to them. He put that stuff. Whenever he felt these kind of rage things, he would take it somewhere else. He would put it somewhere else. And I think the problem was that Amber was there. When he had these rage issues, Amber was there, and that's why she was affected by it, and no one else was, because she just doesn't get scared of that kind of thing, I guess, and she doesn't leave him alone when he's acting that way. But sometimes it's like he literally will not let her leave like she describes, like, you don't like it when I leave, you always grab me, you don't let me leave when I want to leave. And she's kind of making it seem like she's saying that you overpower me, and he kind of holds her there against her will. So that's something that they didn't bring up enough in this trial, like that idea of like him grabbing her and not letting her leave when she wants to leave. And he brought up this thing where he wanted to go see his daughter, and there was this one time where Amber said, "Stay here with me, like I don't like I'm asking you this one time to stay with me." And he kind of blew it up and said, "Oh, she's so abusive, she won't let me leave, da da da." But I think it was just it was blown out of proportion. Like the evidence shows that Amber was a good influence, and she encouraged him to be with his kids more. And there was this one time where she asked him to stay for whatever reason. I don't know, it just seems like she wanted him to stay that one time, and he refused to do it because he doesn't like when people tell him what to do. He gets very uncomfortable when people tell him what to do. That's fair enough. Some people, I mean, I don't like it when people tell me what to do, so I can understand that. But it's his whole relationship with people. It's like it's always on his terms. He can be with people when he wants to be with people, but it's such a selfish. It's not the best way. And it's like, is he really like the best dad ever? If that's the case, like, I know when he's with them, he's good with them, but it makes it seem like she would prefer if he was around her more or something. Like the way she was messaging about it, like she's like, when Amber's with you, she makes you like, she encourages your sobriety, and that means that we get to be around you more. That, I mean, we can't, I mean, that seems to be what the thing is. Like, he's not allowed to be around his kids. Like, maybe Vanessa knows this type of stuff, and she's like, you're not allowed to be around the kids if you're in that kind of way. And she doesn't let him be around them in those times. And Vanessa signed this non-disclosure agreement. We don't know what she knows about him, but she got paid allegedly like $100 million to like not say anything. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, but maybe it's something to do with like drugs and alcohol, and that's why he's not allowed to be with his kids in certain points. And that's why they said, and he said he'd been texting Amber's parents saying that she's a hero, she's the only person, she's the only one who was able to get me sober, she's so strong, da da da. He was like saying that she did all these good things for him, and it's only her that brought him. It was only Amber that got him sober, is basically what he was saying. So Amber's doing something good, and this one time she asked him to stay with her, and it's gone blown out of proportion, and they're saying like she's so needy, she's da da da, and it just doesn't seem like that's what the case is. Like, it seems like he's misrepresenting these things and trying to complain about things when there's nothing to complain about. And now Lily Rose Depp, she removed that picture. Like, she wrote this thing and she had this picture in support of him. She removed it since then, and she hasn't posted about this trial. And maybe it's because it's just he maybe told them to not watch the trial because there's bad things that are gonna come out about him. And for whatever reason, she's like, she just doesn't want anything to do with it. She clearly doesn't want anything to do with it. But his fans are harassing her online, saying, you should post something in support, da, da, da. And they won't leave her alone. And it's just like, everything he's doing, it just shows stupid decision making. Like, he's saying that he's doing this thing for the sake of his kids, and now his kids are getting harassed because they're not showing the support for him. Like, it's just such a bad idea to like do this public trial. It has not redeemed him. It has made him worse because those allegations are still sitting there, and who knows what's gonna happen when Amber appeals it. Like, it's just not a good look. It's just, he's ruined his reputation more than anyone.
Well, yes, you do, because you wouldn't have used that as a way to hit me. I was pouring my heart out to you. What do you do? Let me get it. Stab in here. That's what you saw, huh? You listen to me cry, and you're like, now I can get her. that what you think? Or you just do it without thinking? You do it without thinking, huh? You don't. Get him. Stab him when you can. You throw a swing when you can. And what win better than to win on the floor? Because that's when it's really good to hit someone.
I think that the jury just really did not understand what this trial was. Like, that he had the burden of proof. He was supposed to be there to disprove these things that Amber did, and like try to make it seem like she was a master manipulator, and she has this evil scheme, like this elaborate hoax plan, and he didn't prove that. That's the thing that he was supposed to prove, and he did not prove that. He was supposed to say, I wasn't there because this, and this, but that's not what they did. Like, that's why the argument was so stupid. Like, and for Amber, like, to show you these pictures, and then people, like, the way people are acting when they like, saying she describes a picture's like 2 black eyes, and people are like, oh, you call that 2 black eyes? You silly woman, you're so mistaken. And then Amber, like, she does this thing with the charity, and she's saying that a donation and a pledge, she used that interchangeably. And when it comes to that whole thing with the charity thing, because I brought this up in an earlier video and tried to call out the hypocrisy, no one said anything about it. They just glossed over this, and I don't want it to be glossed over again. Like, can someone talk about the fact that they asked Johnny Depp if he gives money to charities, and he says, yes, I do it, except I don't want to have publicity for it, so I just do it and don't put my name on it. And then at the same time, he's doing these charity functions where his face, his appearance is there. He's getting publicity out of this thing, and he's saying that he won't put his name on these big checks that he's giving to charities. It doesn't make any sense. It seems like, again, he lied on the stand. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they can, like, look into that, like, do some forensic accounting research to see how much money does he give to charity that doesn't have his name on it. Like, can they look into that or something? But I don't believe that for a second. And now, like, with this whole thing, like, for his whole narrative to make sense, like, saying that Amber had to convince, like, all these people, like, her friends, ex-friends, these professional people, like, her expert witnesses, and all these people, she had to convince them to lie under oath. She has no money to convince them that that's a good idea, but that's what they did. And then all through that, she was leaving these, she was texting her mother, leaving all these little seeds, like taking pictures of these, like, bruises that she painted on, but she wouldn't take a direct picture of it, of, like, her face bruised up in a more dramatic way, so it would be believable to people. Like, she wasn't doing that. It was just all these crumbs for this evil, diabolical plan to take down this man, and it didn't even work. She got a TRO, and it was Johnny Depp was fine. He was allowed to work. After that, for years, he was allowed to work. The only reason why he wasn't was because someone called him a bad name. Someone called him a wife beater. That hurt his feelings, so he went on the attack and tried to sue them, and that's why he's in this mess. Like, it had nothing to do with what Amber did. It was his own fault. And then this thing with the Hicksville incident, like, she described the sexual assault that happened there, and then people were saying, like, she is responsible for trashing the trailer because she was giving so many facts that did line up with that story. Like, there's so many witnesses that saw that trailer being trashed, and they all agreed with that. The only thing that you can't verify is the sexual assault, because no one can ever verify something like that. Like, in the way that she described, you cannot have evidence. You cannot have hard evidence of something like that. So what is causing people to disbelieve it? When you truly think about it, what's causing someone to disbelieve it? And now this guy came in to say that trailer was not trashed at all. But given with Johnny Depp's history, they're trying to convince you that trailer, the only thing that was broken was like a light socket or something. That was the only damage that was done, and she's just being over dramatic. She's fictionalizing these things that it didn't happen, even though Johnny Depp has this history of causing all thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage. You're supposed to believe this random guy versus all her witnesses, these ex-friends, who are honest enough to say that they've never seen him strike her, like they've never seen him hit her in public, because domestic abuse doesn't tend to happen in public unless they slip up, but usually they do it behind closed doors. So they're being that honest about it, but they will tell you that trailer was trashed, and you're supposed to believe this random person who she's like, I don't know who this is. He just came out from, I don't know where he came from. You're supposed to believe that guy versus all the witnesses that said, yeah, that trailer, it looks like a bomb went off. You're meant to believe this guy. It makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense to side with him. So, the thing with Amber's arrest, where she apparently grabbed her partner at the time and allegedly struck her on the arm, and she got arrested for a domestic abuse thing. And they were saying, like, both of them said that that's not what happened. They misunderstood what they saw. They didn't have the witnesses, whoever saw it, they didn't have them questioned under oath to see what they actually saw. But her partner made the statement saying that it's disheartening that Amber's integrity and story are being questioned yet again. She said, Amber is a brilliant, honest, and beautiful woman, and I have the utmost respect for her. We shared 5 wonderful years together and remain close friends to this day. And yeah, I mean, it seems like she didn't do anything bad. Like, if her ex is gonna defend her like that, it doesn't seem like she did anything bad. It's kind of like how when Kate Moss came to defend Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp was questioned for domestic abuse type stuff with Kate Moss, because he caused all that property damage, and they were wondering if he did anything to her. So he was sort of questioned about that when the police took him, but apparently nothing happened. That's what they both say. So I guess you can just like take them at their word. Like, there's no need to pry. There's no need to get into it. There's not a lot of evidence that anything happened. There's no hard evidence that anything happened. Amber really doesn't sound like an abuser to me when I listen to these tapes. She's always telling him to like run away like you always do, and stuff like that. And that makes it seem like she's not an abuser. Like, and it's not like, it's kind of, she's taunting him, but at the same time, he does like he does leave anytime he wants to. Like, there's nothing she can do to force him to be there when he doesn't want to be there. So she doesn't seem like an abusive person to me. And then, like, they're saying that she's the one that starts the physical altercations. And I mean, I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of evidence of that. Like, they say that she starts fights, but it doesn't mean that it's like a physical fight. When I listen to these tapes, it's kind of vague. It's like he's saying that she's being verbally abusive. She's insulting him in a way that he doesn't like. And then maybe he's the one that starts the physical altercation. It's not very clear, because there are times where she's like, I criticize you, and you describe that as me attacking you. Like, me giving you a criticism is being read as an attack. And me knocking on the door to come get you is being read as me, being annoying and being aggressive with you. Like, I'm pounding on the door. And she's like, I'm not pounding on the door. I'm just like knocking on the door and saying, hey, please come out there. Let's work this out. Like, she's making it seem like he's over dramatic. And there's so much evidence that he is the over dramatic one, in my opinion. In my opinion, he does seem to be kind of over dramatic in the way he describes these things. Like, especially like with the whole hitting and punching thing, it seems like he was kind of being over dramatic. like saying that she punched him and like this and that, and she was like, and they were trying to specify like what did she do, like how hard did she punch him? Does she punch him hard enough to like leave a bruise or anything like that? And it didn't seem like it. It seemed, she's like, I did not deck you. I did not like I've never been able to knock you off your feet. Like it doesn't seem like a forceful punch if it's a punch. And she's saying it wasn't a punch, it was a hit. Which I do understand what that difference is. I don't know. Maybe I just see it in a certain way in my head. And it just seems like he's maybe being over dramatic in the way he's describing these things. It's like she said, like he is kind of being over dramatic about it. I don't know. Like even when he's saying to her like, you won't let me leave, and she's only asking him to say, it's not like she's pulling on his leg and saying you're not allowed to go. It's not that crazy. He's making it out like she's doing these major things to attack him. And the other thing is like saying that the cruelest thing that she ever did to him was withhold his medication, when the truth of it was that she was on this order to give him his medication at 4 p.m. He asked for it at 3:15, and she said, no, I have to wait till 4 p.m. And he called something like that. He described something like that as the cruelest thing that she had ever done. She just really doesn't seem like an abusive person, and she's given her side of the story of starting the physical altercations. And what she says is, like, from her own testimony, what would happen is, like, Johnny Depp is, like, he says something verbally wrong, abusive, or there's this one time where he apparently admitted to cheating on her, so she slapped him, and it led to this big physical fight between them. And that's how she describes it. And I just don't think that like, to say that that's her starting a physical fight is wrong. Like, just because someone slaps you doesn't need to lead to you fighting back. Like, someone as small as her and someone as big as him, it shouldn't lead to a physical fight. If that's what she did, if that's really what she did, he never. And the problem is, like, he never describes Amber like slapping him, and that seems so suspicious to me. Like, I'm sure Amber has slapped him, and he never said, Amber slapped me, and then this, and this happened. And that seems suspicious as hell to me. Like, he would never say that. Because I do believe when Amber says, I slapped him. So, I mean, the slap is very important, and for him to, like, end up, like, hitting her or, like, holding her down, whatever, like, he reacts to it. And, like, to call something like that mutual abuse, when, like, a man of his strength and size fighting back and, like, defending himself against, like, a slap, it's just not right. It's not right to do. Like, saying it was justified for him to fight back physically does not make sense, just because she started it. And that's basically what she said in that audio tape. It's like, tell people that it's a fair fight between you and me. And that's the problem. Like, and, like, he hasn't said, like, if he would just say, he explained these fights a little bit better and said his side of it and her side of it, and he hasn't remembered those times where she slapped him and this and this happened. He doesn't remember those times where she slapped him, and he doesn't remember a lot of things. So fair enough. Like, it's very confusing. So Amber was awarded money in her counterclaim, and the reason why the jurors awarded Amber damages isn't an insignificant part of the puzzle. Like, it's very important that they gave her money for this kind of thing, because it means that it proves that they do believe that Johnny was abusive to her at least one time. And if that were the case, he should not have been awarded any money. And I think they got confused about what they were judging based on this. I think the sexual allegations, like, threw them off, and they thought that's what they were judging, and that's not what they were supposed to be judging. So the problem with this is, like, with this case, like, there's so much evidence that he has thrown that phone at Amber's face, and he calls that mark on her face. There's so much evidence that he did that. And the problem is, like, him going through and taking it this far is like, it's a reckless disregard for the truth. And it's him acting with malice, like him wanting global humiliation for her. Him taking it this far, if that's what happened, he should not have taken it this far. And Amber's saying all these things, like, in their fight, like, people keep missing that she's saying, like, please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the judge and jury thinks. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and it's a fair fight, and see how many people believe or side with you. And the problem is, like, he did not do that. He made this a defamation case. If he had done, I wish he would have done this, he would have sued Amber for assault and battery and made it a criminal lawsuit. That would have changed my opinion. I might have been like, yeah, I kind of believe him now. But the fact that he didn't do that is so suspicious. It makes him look very guilty to me. This whole trial was the smoking gun. It was proof of psychological abuse, emotional abuse. Him taking it this far, like, the torture that he put her through, like, she had not made those sexual abuse allegations public until he forced her to. She was not going to say that stuff until he made her tell the truth to people. And I guess what's throwing the jury people off is, like, how high functioning Amber is. Like, that's the thing that throws people off. And I think Johnny Depp he's an idiot, but he's, like, such a genius at the same time, like, doing this trial. Like, he really did confuse a lot of people. Like, you think he has to be innocent. Like, if he's doing all this, he has to be innocent. Who would do this if they're not an innocent person? But it seems as though, fortune does favor the bold, and this is such a bold move that he did this. Like, I know that, like, you will never ever get clear-cut evidence of physical abuse or sexual abuse or anything like that, and that, like, even the person who did it has every reason to lie. And someone like Amber, she had no reason to lie. She had no reason to make this stuff up. She was told, like, they told her, you have to tell the truth. She had no reason to make up this lie and make her life more difficult, and this thing did make her life more difficult. She had no reason to do this. It only backfired on her. So I don't know why people think that she would do this for her own sake. And she said, like, before this thing happened, she was like, I hope when this trial is done, I can move on, and so can Johnny. And I think she truly does believe that, because the facts seem to show that, like, when people do this, they do get away with this. Even, like, with Axl Rose, like, he has, like, these domestic abuse things that he had in the past, like, that never stopped him. And it's never the thing that stopped him. Like, Charlie Sheen as well, like, he had some kind of domestic abuse thing, but the thing that got him fired was, like, the drugs. I think the drugs and, like, the bad attitude and those kinds of things, that's the thing that really makes you get fired. It's got nothing to do with, like these abuse claims. Like, no one cares about these abuse claims. That's never the issue with people. And I don't think, like, even now, like, that she's made these allegations, like, there's no harm in just believing her. Like, he's not gonna go to prison or anything like that, obviously, because there's gonna be a lack of hard evidence. He'll never, like, go to prison for something like this. All you have, like, it's not gonna damage anything. And that something bad happened to Amber, because she said that she was scared that he would, like, kill her on accident. And, like, you must believe that something bad happened to her. And she's giving you, this is the story of what happened to me. And just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that it means that nothing happened to her. More likely than anything is, like, she's probably told the truth, and maybe she misremembered some details here and there, but it seems like, for the most part, it's more likely to be the truth. And if it's not, like, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like, to think that she's maliciously lying, I think that's pretty, it's way too much to think that it's a malicious lie, because she did not want to do this. She was going to keep it private. He told her, let's keep this private, and she thought that's how things were going to be. It was only because he forced her to come forward and tell the truth that all this stuff came out. It was his choice to do this. One of the statements that they judged her on was that the title that she did not write, that said, "I spoke up against sexual violence and face our culture's wrath." And then she goes on to say, "I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse." And she proved her point. Like, nothing she said could have been disproven. He did not disprove that allegation. Like, the thing in Australia, he has the burden of proof. He did not give you an alternative story. Amber's mentioned multiple times that incident left her fearing for her life. I don't know what's keeping people from disbelieving. It's crazy to me that people disbelieve what she said when she's talking about sexual violence when it comes to that. Like, what evidence is ever going to be good enough for anyone? Because you know that Johnny Depp caused like $100,000 worth of property damage when he was in Australia, and that the trip ended with him. Like, they might say, oh, he locked himself away, he was trying to get away from you. That makes me think more of a reason that he would act out against her if she kept coming to get him. It's more of a reason that he would take his anger out on her. But despite that, like, we know he came out of whatever he was locked up into. We know he took ecstasy. We knew that he drank a lot of alcohol and did cocaine on that trip. He does not remember most of that trip. We know that he broke a bunch of stuff, and he severed his finger. He ended up his finger got severed, and he wrote on everything. He wrote all these menacing notes and everything. He ruined her wardrobe. He cut up her nightgown and put pieces of meat in it. I don't know if that part is verified, but yeah. It's a weird thing for her to try to make that up. It's very believable that he did that because he was that out of his mind, and all this kind of stuff. Like, if you think that happened, like, why are you going to disbelieve that he sexually assaulted her? Like, why are you going so far to say that he did not abuse her and he didn't touch a hair on her head? Well, how can you say something like that? If that's the case, like, no one has any hope in the future if you say that that's the case. And he didn't give you an alternative story. He said, I was blackout drunk. I don't remember. How is he getting up on the stand and saying to people with full confidence, I have never struck a woman in my entire life? How is he able to say stuff like that? And people go, yeah, that makes sense. Like, how does that make sense? And Rottenborn was like, you guys you don't have to check your common sense at the door. And I guess they did just check their common sense in the door when they made this decision, because it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Johnny has all these paranoid, delusional things with him. Like, when he says, I'm an insane person, he himself says that. When he drinks too much, when he's mixing all these drugs and alcohol and together at one time, like, you can imagine, like, it gets really bad for him to cause that much property damage. The rage that he was in, to be writing with his own severed finger, dipping it in blood, writing the notes that he wrote. It just, like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like he was completely out of his mind at the time. I don't think he would even be criminally responsible for his actions, because it really does seem like he has no awareness of what he did. In certain sections, it really does seem like that. Even when I'm listening to the tapes, he was like, for 2 fights, I think I was okay. But then he was like, for the rest of it, I really don't remember what happened. Like, he's relying on what she said. And I think the stuff that she told him that he did, that he heard that what he did, I think he learnt about in the UK trial. And he was like, no way. And maybe that's why he's fighting against it so hard. But I think maybe it is the truth. Like, I think it might be the truth, and he completely blacked it out. And that's why he's so in denial about it, but it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It really doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Anyway, to circle back, this whole thing, like, people have forgotten this is about freedom of speech. And this person commented and said, hey, it's not like a freedom of speech issue. And he was saying, like, well, what could she have done? And then he said, like, if this is assuming she's telling the truth, first off, don't write an op-ed. And then he's like giving all these instructions about how to handle things in the correct way and da-da-da-da. And it doesn't apply in real life. Like, this is not how things work in real life. Like, going to the hospital to get a medical record, and like that's not the kind of way you want things to be for like domestic abuse. I think people should be able to report domestic abuse even if they don't have visible bruises, even if they're not injured badly enough to have a medical record. They should be able to report domestic abuse and be believed. Like, you don't have to sit and wait around until someone hits you hard enough for it to make a bruise that looks really believable looking. Like, wait until you look like Rihanna's bruise or something. Like, you don't have to wait that long in order to be believed. And I think back to the Axl Rose case with his exes, like, those women never had bruises. I don't think Axl ever had bruises, but I think everyone does believe, like, when they say that they were physically abusive to each other. I think people tend to believe them when they say that. No one thinks that they're making that stuff up, I don't think. And you don't need to, like, have all this, like, evidence. Like, no, you don't need evidence. There's no harm in believing someone at their word. And there's so much more harm in, like, this culture of, like, trying to get to silence victims. And, like, the phone call that Johnny Depp made to Amber from the beginning, like, she wanted to go to court from the beginning, or she didn't really want to go to court, and he said, you don't want to go to court, let's handle this privately. And it was kind of used against her, and she didn't think that it was ever going to be public. And now people are, like, using it against her and saying, like, see, now if you were serious, you would have reported it to the police, you would have done this, and this. And they forgot that phone call where he was emotionally manipulating her and saying, my son is being asked about this and that. And that's the reason why she did not report that type of thing. And it got used against her because she kind of fell for his trap. Like, he kept saying, I love you to her, like, multiple times. And that's why they didn't end up going to, they did that mutual letter thing, I guess. And that's how it got worked out. And, like, now, I think Amber did tell the truth, and her truth is out. It just needs, like, people to, like, to understand, like, she's not faking it. She's not making this stuff up as it goes along. It's not an elaborate hoax. And even, I mean, a lot of it, like, you have to admit that he's doing something. The idea that he has never struck a woman is crazy. It's just crazy to believe that. Like, choosing to believe these conspiracy theories of her, you know, doing this elaborate hoax, putting on makeup to fake bruises. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, faking the swelling on her face somehow, thinking that she edited pictures. But then when Johnny Depp submits edited pictures for evidence, no one cares about it. When Johnny Depp says that Amber caused a bruise on his face when he had that bruise the day before he alleged that Amber caused it, like, no one's picking him apart for this stuff and saying that and they believe everything he's saying when the fact is, like, as the perpetrator of abuse, like him, he's the one that's supposed to be disproving his allegation. He has every single reason to lie. Like, he's the one who's going to get in trouble. If anyone's going to get in trouble, it's him. And he went over the top saying all these crazy, like, trying to make himself as he's so innocent, that he's never struck a woman, even though he's had it on tape that he has struck a woman before. He said that he headbutted Amber. He gave you the stupid story about he only headbutted her in the forehead, and that apparently Amber faked the blood with red nail polish. And he said that he headbutted her in the forehead, but she had pictures of her with a swollen nose and like marks on her under her eyes, and he said that the only thing that happened was him clunking heads with her in the forehead, and it just doesn't fit the description of the picture she gave. It seems more likely that it was a deliberate headbutt intending to cause harm, like she said. So it doesn't, I mean, to side with Johnny Depp when he has every single reason to lie, it defies all logic. It makes no sense, and you've forgotten that this is about freedom of speech. And this person was like, well, see, now if she's telling the truth, she should not have written an op-ed. What? Like, why not? Why is she not allowed to? Do you not know how helpful it is for her to share her experiences with people? It's very helpful to people to hear about these kinds of things. She's like. And I do believe her. I think she's telling a lot of truth. Like, I've gone to a point where I've been up and down and all around with this. And I've gone to a point where I do believe, like, the bottle story. I do believe that. Because I don't understand why she would make it up. Maybe it's not exactly what she thought it was. And she's got some details mixed up here and there. But that's just how your memory works after that. Like, how many years has it been? It's been a few years since then. So, it's normal that her memory is kind of off about it, but it seems like a believable enough thing, and she has no reason to lie, and I know something bad happened to her when she was in Australia. That much I do know, and I think he knows it too. But he's in denial. He won't accept that he did something that bad. I think Amber has a right to speak about these things, and she's like saying that it's a wrong thing for her to do was to write this op-ed. Like, her op-ed, her flawless op-ed that had this nice message saying it was wrong for her to do that is so messed up. Like, and this culture that we have of silencing victims, like, we're never going to grow as people if that's the way you think of it. And, like, to go back to Axl Rose, who went through the same thing, he spoke up about these abuse things that happened in his childhood. His family did not care for him doing that. They went against him. They said, you know, we shouldn't have to deal with this publicly. And he was saying to them, like, if we don't deal with it publicly, we'll never deal with it at all. And that's what's happening. Like, because you don't let people speak, you always threaten them with this lawsuit type stuff and saying that we're gonna get revenge on you if you tell people what we did. And, like, I don't know what you need to do if you need to, like, bring the criminalization. Like, the criminalization is already down. Like, people have been getting away with this stuff. Everyone knows that no one gets in trouble for abuse. Like, that's the thing. Like, with the TRO that he had, like, that was not the thing that made him stop working. So, like, why is it suddenly something that's going to be an issue all of a sudden? It makes no sense. And, like, saying that Amber was wrong to accuse him of abusing him if she was abusing him, like, that's also, it doesn't make any sense. Like, just because you've abused someone doesn't mean that you're invincible. It doesn't mean that people can't hurt you back. Like, when Axl Rose gave his story of intimate partner violence, like, he gave the story of his partner at the time assaulting him unprovoked. I do believe him, and he went and sued her for assaulting him because that's what he thought he should do. Like, if you're a victim, that's what you think you should do, but it didn't work out for him, like, and stuff like that. Like, I don't think these lawsuits really get you justice. Like, I think Amber's right in her op-ed. Like, they don't really give people justice exactly. So it's not the type of thing that I would say, but I think, you know, just being able to talk about it helps people who just like to know that there's other people going through the same thing. And I think Axl, like, in the little speeches that he gave in the middle of the concerts, I think it helped a lot of people out. They talk about, like, you know, he's right, abuse messes people up, and there's that cycle of abuse, like, hurt people, and and the fact that him and Amber, like, they go through therapy, they put in all this effort to change, I think that means a lot. And I do believe him as a victim. And I think it says a lot that if someone's they recognize that there's an issue. Like, he recognized that there was an issue. And I don't think Johnny Depp is ever doing that. I think he doesn't see that he's got some issues, because he's going so far to say that he's never struck a woman in his entire life. He's going that far to say he's such a nice guy, such a good guy still, and thinks that he should be believed. And he hasn't earned that. He has not earned that. He doesn't have the credibility. Like, he kept saying, like, what about my credibility? What about my integrity? And it's like, well, you're not doing enough to, like, build it. Like, he doesn't have the integrity. He doesn't have good moral standards. When you actually look at the stuff that he's saying and the things that he's doing, it doesn't seem like he has good moral standards, in my opinion. He keeps, like, dodging things and thinking that nothing is his fault. He never takes responsibility for his actions. And he's never no one can ever grow as a person if this is how we are. We need to, like, fucking change our shit now. As Axl Rose said, like, you have to, like, start doing it right now. Fix this stuff. Like, you can't just keep saying, like, keep trying to silencing victims and saying that it's her fault she ruined his life, when all the evidence, the timeline of events shows it has nothing to do with her accusing him of abuse. Like, that was never the thing. That wasn't the thing that did this. Like, he did this to himself. He is responsible for his life ending up this way. And rewarding him for doing a bad thing, like the thing that he did, like the psychological torture that he did on Amber, like supporting that he did that, saying that was a good thing for him to do that, is like, it's so messed up. It's so messed up. I think that Johnny Depp has some big issues to work out, like getting upset at Amber for, like, having these human emotions, like that she can never be upset with him. Like, there's certain things that he tries to displace the blame onto her, and it never makes any sense. Like, there's that time where he kept spilling his drink on her, and she yelled at him in front of his son, and he tried to paint her out as a bad person for yelling at him in front of his son, and, like, saying that she's the one that freaked him out. And I think if you're being real honest about what happened, that is that his kids get freaked out because he, is in a bad way with drugs and alcohol in front of them, and that's what's truly freaking them out. It's got nothing to do with Amber's reaction, like her alerting them to these things. Like, he's trying to put the blame on her, but the problem is that he is on these substances around his children, and it's not right for him to try to blame her for that. There's also, like, there's certain things where he has also tried to blame Amber because for apparently starting these fights. Like, there's times where he says that Amber, she threw a punch at him, and she's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's so many times that she's so confused, she can't remember details of the fight. And then some of the evidence that they missed out is, like, he had her on all these medications. She said to him in those tapes that she couldn't remember certain things because she was on those medications. Like, she couldn't remember certain details. And that's in both of their fights. I don't know if she actually did throw a vodka bottle at him. Like, she's saying that she doesn't remember doing that. And he's saying, like, you threw bottles at me, and I don't know. Like, I think the drugs that they've been on have messed with their memory. Both of them, both got messed up. We'll never get the truth. Like, he said he's so obsessed with the truth. Like, how the hell are we gonna get the truth when the drugs that you guys have been on has messed up your memory to this level? Like, neither of you are reliable narrators, so we're not gonna get the truth if that's the case. But I mean, to think that Amber's, like, making stuff up, like, it's just too far a jump. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that she would make this stuff up. It's going a bit too far to think that, like, but then maybe, like, it is possible, so that's why I don't think, like, either of them will be criminalized for it. I just don't think there's any malicious intent on her side. If she has this memory, like maybe it was a dream, I don't know. Something's up with these drugs that I don't know what those drugs are like, but they both, on those tapes where they didn't think they were gonna break up, they talked about it and they said there's something up, and they both have odd memories of those times, and they conflict with each other. We don't know what the truth is. We were never going to get the truth from this trial. It was so stupid. But I just think that Amber Heard has the integrity. She has the more credibility. I think she has more integrity, like, in a fingernail than Johnny Depp has in his whole being. Like, the whole way he handles things is so annoying to me. And again, like, to compare him to Axl Rose, someone who's, like, at least admitting to, like, some of the stuff that he's done, and some of the things that there's some things that he doesn't need to, like, say out loud, I've done this. But you kind of know, like, you don't need to say every little thing that you did, but just to go on the offense like this and say that she's a liar is just, like, it's too much for me. I was so fine with him before when he didn't say anything. Like, he just did that mutual statement and, like, moved along. That was a much better move for him to just do that and keep it like that. Like, it's a better way to acknowledge things and, like, not acknowledge things at the same time. And he ruined it by, like, doing these lawsuits and, like, exposing these things. And the fact that people, like, keep making excuses for him and, like, letting him do these bad things, and he's never gonna grow as a person when you do that for him. And now he's back drinking alcohol again, apparently. So no one seems to care about that. But yeah, when I was younger, I really appreciated the stuff that Axl Rose said. I think Amber's stuff that she said, I think that's going to be very helpful to a lot of people. I relate to a lot of stuff that she said. And I think we don't want perfect people to be domestic abuse advocates. Like, they don't exist. They're not there. Like, these, like, Cinderella type people that you think exist in the real world. That they don't live in the real world. They live, like, in Neverland. They don't live here. I don't know where they are. And if Cinderella was, like, a real person, like, she would just be called, like, a gold-digging whore, and you know it. So, I don't know, like, there's just these perfect people, victims, that they're not gonna be here. I much prefer, like, people like Axl Rose speaking, and people like Amber speaking, like, someone, like, who have these kind of dodgy things. Like, I believe in their victimhood. Like, no one's, like, a perfect victim. Like, they're just, and Johnny Depp, he's the same. Like, if you believe he's a victim, he's not a perfect one either. So, the stuff, like, I don't know what you want from people. Like, these are the people that I want to be domestic abuse advocates. Even Johnny Depp, like, if he were to give his true story of what happened, but the problem was that he wasn't honest. That's my only issue with him, was that he was not honest. And if he were honest, he would be a much more valuable person to speak about domestic abuse. Like, even if he's an abuser, like, it's still valuable to hear what he has to say. And I'm not wanting anything negative to happen to him. Just acknowledge what he did, or at least say, you know what, it's a possibility. If I don't remember, it definitely is a possibility. Like, at least meet her halfway in that. Like, it's getting so ridiculous now.